The fight to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat on the Supreme Court is heating up. Students and professors weigh in on what it means for the upcoming election.
A new app created by USC alumni makes it easy to fight climate change. We'll learn more from one of the app founders.
Crowds will soon gather at the Galen Center, but not to watch a USC game. We'll show you what's planned for Galen in November.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
The passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg has sparked a major political battle. I'm Zoe Ginsburg reporting from Los Angeles.
And I'm Ella Katz, also reporting from LA. The fight for a Supreme Court seat will likely have a lasting impact on American politics. The death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg last Friday has led hundreds of people to the steps of the Supreme Court to pay their respects. We spoke to USC law students and a professor to get their reaction on what her passing could mean for the upcoming election.
I do have concerns that Trump's cabinet could try to fast track some sort of decision. Those kind of things weigh in the back of my mind.
I think generally Americans don't realize how much power is wielded by the federal judiciary, not just the Supreme Court. It feels particularly rushed because of what happened during the Obama administration. I think had that not had been the case, had there been allowed Obama when he had more time left as president to nominate a Supreme Court justice, people would be much less upset about this.
If it wakes up people who care about reproductive rights and care about other issues of civil rights for women, for people of color, for disabled people. I mean, for LGBTQ people. I mean, she's been on the forefront, really, of all of these movements for rights. To wake people up to the recognition that, oh, the courts actually matter, that would be a very good thing.
Justice Ginsburg will be the first woman to ever lie in state in the Capitol. Her burial is on Friday.
The president is one step closer to putting another conservative judge on the Supreme Court. Today, Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney threw his support behind the president. He says his decision is based on historical precedent.
The decision to proceed now with the President Trump's nominee is also consistent with history. I came down on the side of the Constitution and precedent as I've studied it. It's also appropriate for a nation which is, if you will, center-right, to have a court which reflects center-right points of view.
Romney's vote seemed uncertain because of his past criticism of the president. His support is a game changer. Now, only two senators, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski and Maine's Susan Collins, have signaled that they will vote against Trump's pick. Democrats need 4 Republican senators to flip their vote. With Romney backing Trump, it's expected the president's nominee will be the next Supreme Court justice.
Today, there are more COVID-19 testing centers in LA County than there were this past summer. But not nearly as many people are getting tested. In July, there were 130,000 people getting tested per week, and now that number is down to 74,000 per week getting tested.
So having high levels of testing that even if they only return a low percentage, even if they only identify a low percentage of positive people, is a really important way that our city and our state is going to be able to manage this epidemic. So, you know, again, getting tested both to protect yourself and the people you're in contact with, but also to do your part for helping, you know, kind of manage the problem across the state, I think is an important thing.
There are now 173 public and private testing centers in LA County. And starting next month, these centers will be testing for both COVID-19 and the flu. Desperate for some in-person interaction, 4 USC students have launched an app that reimagines the study group and connects students who are living abroad.
We can just divide it into 2 parts, Ind and Hub. So Hub, pretty easy, pretty obvious. It's just like a center which gather all people together. But Ind, it has 2 meanings. It means intelligent, it means international.
You know, currently we are not looking for any profit, but rather we want to gather, you know, more students and to, just unite the students to, give them a space or a community that they can really communicate with each other and network with each other.
InterHub brings international students together to study collaboratively in shared spaces. Students who want to take a break from Zoom classes can contact InterHub and use the spaces it rents to study face-to-face with their peers. InterHub holds study stations in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, where COVID numbers are now under control. Many ACT and SAT test centers remain closed due to the coronavirus, but many college students rely on these standardized tests for college admissions. Universities, however, are moving towards test-optional policies. We spoke to a college admissions counselor to get her take on these new policies.
My students this year, a handful of them have good test scores already. But I would say the majority of them were hoping for that March and spring test dates, and they haven't been able to get them. And, they've asked me, should we fly to other states? Should we try to drive somewhere, do this or that? The colleges really are sending out the message that students need to take care of their mental health first, their physical health. I mean, why would you want to go drive somewhere, expose yourself when your school isn't even open?
More than 1,450 U.S. colleges are moving to a test-optional policy. Colleges with test-optional policies in place confirm that students will not be penalized without a test score. University of California Board of Regents unanimously approved the test-optional policy until fall of 2022.
Pictures shared by firefighters today on social media show they have made some progress in containing the massive Bobcat fire, but they still have a long way to go. Communities near the San Gabriel Mountains are still in danger, 17 days after the fire began. The fire is now 17% contained. That's a slight improvement. Over 109,000 acres have burned so far, and evacuation warnings are still in place for Pasadena, Altadena, and Wrightwood. Protecting the observatory at Mount Wilson is still a top priority.
As wildfires continue to ravage California and climate concerns heighten, a new startup created by USC alums can help you calculate your carbon footprint and help you to reduce it for only $20 a month. Here's the CEO and co-founder of Wren discussing Climate Camp, one of the app's many features.
Climate Camp kind of tackles a lot more of the general advice we offer to people. It's custom tailored based on your carbon footprint too. So you're getting advice that'll work for you. And we also make it easy to support a project that's protecting rainforests or planting trees or otherwise preventing emissions. I think the biggest idea that we focus on is this gap between people wanting to do something and people actually taking action.
Wren connects you to a global network of projects so that you can choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint and do your small part to save the world. The president and his administration is labeling Portland and two cities as, quote, anarchist jurisdictions and threatening to revoke federal funding. This, of course, follows months of protests for police reform.
Portland has seen more than 100 nights of unrest since the death of George Floyd led to nationwide protests over police violence. But many Portlanders say the anarchy label is not accurate. We talked to a Portland resident who marched over the summer and to a reporter for Oregon Public Broadcasting.
People are still going to work. People are still driving in their cars. The grocery stores are fully packed with food. I mean, it's, the day-to-day life, while different in a way, is very much so the same as any other major American city in a global pandemic.
I think that this administration is using Portland as a symbol, using it as a tool, using it as a wedge, and using it to excite his base.
If the federal government, if the Trump administration tries to, hold back any sort of federal funding from the city of Portland, from the city of Seattle, and the city of New York, you're definitely going to see those cities take that issue to court.
The reporter says it's probably not a coincidence that the Trump administration's announcement comes just 6 weeks before Election Day. Here is Isabella, our political reporter, with more on the election.
Thanks, Zoe. Reporting from Temecula, I'm Isabella Bright with Politics. More Californians than ever are expected to vote by mail this election. Governor Gavin Newsom just signed a law making it a crime to knowingly spread misinformation about mail-in voting. Anyone intentionally spreading misinformation on the subject can now be charged with a misdemeanor. I spoke with two political scientists about the law.
There is a lot of pushback around vote by mail. There's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of misinformation, flat out incorrect information, lies that are being told. Lots of different reasons for it, but it all falls under the umbrella in some form of voter suppression.
What this bill can do is give the Secretary of State's office not just the chance to respond on social media and set the record straight, but to go after the sources of that disinformation and to discourage this from happening again in future elections. Somebody mistakenly sends something, this is not a law that's meant to target them. It's a law that's trying to target organized efforts to do this. And their organization can lead to the paper trail that can create a case for it.
California voters will be sent a vote-by-mail ballot for the November 3rd general election. Voters do not have to apply for a vote-by-mail ballot. After filling out your ballot, place it in the envelope provided. The ballot must be postmarked on or before Election Day. A record number of voters are expected to vote by mail because of the pandemic.
I'm Jillian Carroll reporting from Los Angeles, and here's what's happening in sports. USC's Galen Center will be transformed into a voting center for the 2020 presidential election, starting October 30th. USC Athletic Director Mike Bohn said, "I am proud that this came about because of the efforts of our USC Athletic Black Lives Matter action team and our student athletes. They recognize that the constitutional right to vote is foundational for our democracy, and they steadfastly believe in using their voices and actions to help ensure our country's future." The decision is part of a commitment to voter registration on the part of USC Athletics. I spoke to women's basketball associate head coach Erica Hughes about the impact of this initiative.
I think that we have put together an action team, and then of course USC has done an amazing job of just making it something that's a priority for our athletic department, which spearheads what happens on campus. We understand that we're leaders, and we want to make sure that we're setting the best example for everyone on campus by continuing these initiatives.
Other initiatives from the action team have included teams challenging each other to register to vote and the department giving the day off from athletic activities on Election Day. Let's send it over to Ava Brand, who's also reporting from LA.
Thank you, Jillian. Vanessa Bryant is suing a second helicopter company involved in the crash that killed her husband, daughter, and 7 others. The suit alleges that OC Helicopters owner Richard Webb suggested the route carelessly and should have aborted the flight. The lawsuit alleges, quote, OC Helicopters improperly failed to tell the Island Express pilot Ara George Zabayan to abort or cancel the flight or turn around when its agent and employee, Richard Webb, was in communications with defendant Zabayan and monitoring the weather during the flight. Bryant is also suing the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, claiming Sheriff Alex Villanueva failed to secure privacy at the crash site. The lawsuit states, quote, faced with a scene of unimaginable loss, no fewer than 8 sheriff's deputies at the crash site pulled out their personal cell phones and snapped photos of the dead children, parents, and coaches. The basketball star's widow says these photos created permanent harm and that she fears to see the photos. Bryant is seeking compensatory and punitive damages. That's all we have for sports. Back to you, Zoe and Ella.
It is your lucky day because today marks the first day of Dino Fest, the Natural History Museum's 4-day virtual dinosaur festival. Events include panels with scientists and puppet shows, and luckily Dino Fest will last until Friday, so you have all week to check it out. You can find the full schedule at nhm.org/DinoFest.
The Billboard Music Award nominations are out. Post Malone leads the pack with 16 total nominations. Post Malone is followed by Lil Nas X with 13 nominations, and Billie Eilish and Khalid tied at 12. The ceremony will be hosted by Kelly Clarkson and broadcast live on October 14th. Zoe, I don't know about you, but for me, Khalid has a way with his words that really hits me where it hurts.
There's one line that really encapsulates how I feel about this show, because, there's really nothing better than this. I think we need to log off.
Yeah, we need to log off. The Zoom fatigue is real. So that wraps it up for us on this Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in.
From all of us at Annenberg TV News, have a good night.